Good evening, everybody. My name is Greg Giglio, and I am the principal at Homestead High School. And I'm doing this panel tonight thanks to the PTSA, who is our wonderful Parent Teacher Student Association, who does a lot of great support for everybody at Homestead. And so what we have tonight is a panel of veteran parents who we're going to ask some questions to and give you some advice on what it's like to be a parent at Homestead. So thank you, everybody, for coming. What we're going to do is do some brief introductions here. And so I'm going to change the screen a little bit. And so I'm going to ask you to go ahead and, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, your student, what year they are at Homestead, and if they've graduated, where they are now. And Allison, you're already on our screen right there. So I'm going to have you go ahead and go first.
Okay, my name is Allison Halady, and I have a 2018 grad who just finished his second year at Arizona State University. I have a 2021 grad who's very excited, and I also have a 2023 grad who's entering 10th grade.
Excellent, thanks you, and welcome to our panel tonight. Alice, how about if you introduce yourself?
I'm Alice Yu, and I have two kids currently at Homestead. My son Matthew is a senior, and my daughter Jody is a junior.
Excellent, thank you. Kay, how about you?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Kay Zarin. I had two boys at Homestead. They are both graduated, class of 2018. He took a gap year after graduating from high school and spent time in Africa, and he's currently at NYU studying photography. And then I have a class of 2020 who just graduated this last year and is headed to Ithaca College. Unfortunately, he's going to be stuck at home because Ithaca is not allowing the students coming from the 33 quarantine states to come, even though they're doing on campus. So I have one kid who's headed back to New York and one kid who's stuck at home.
Great, thank you. Sejal.
I have three boys. My oldest son, Shaylin, is a 2019 grad, and he's at Berkeley. And I have a rising senior, Sean, and a rising sophomore, Kieran. And my husband and I are both grads as well.
All right, there you go. Thank you. Nikki, how about you?
Hi, my name is Nikki. I have two students. One graduated in 2019, and she's at University of Rochester. And I have an incoming junior.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you all for coming onto our panel tonight. And I should probably also say I'm qualified to be on the panel tonight because I have a junior at Homestead. So I might pop in and answer two every once in a while as well too. But you guys definitely have more parent experience at Homestead than I do. So thank you guys for coming tonight. So again, I'm just going to ask a round of questions, and if you have a answer, we'll get you on there and go ahead and answer. But our first question is, what was your biggest concern or strongest memory when your first child entered Homestead? And Nikki, you want to go?
Yeah, so my daughter had done private schooling, the whole elementary and middle school. So our biggest concern was making that change from private school to public school. And private schools are small in size and far more hand-holding and such. So that was my biggest concern. But basically on day 3, my kid said she's fine, everything works out, and there wasn't any much transition issues that we were worried about.
Great. Allison, you look like you're unmuted. Do you want to answer?
I think my very, very first semester, the hardest thing for me was realizing that the communication mainly went to the students and not as much to the parents, which is on purpose. And coming from elementary school, that was a hard shift for me to let them at least try and manage it for themselves. It didn't always work out perfectly, but after a little while, you get used to it, and I appreciated it more that there was a lot more stuff directed to the kids to help them take charge of their own responsibilities without leaving it up to me. So.
Great, thanks. And that's something that people might hear a lot. Your students can say, the teacher doesn't want to hear from you. They want me to talk to them. That's not always entirely true. We do love to hear from parents, but we do try to go through students, help them build some advocacy skills. So, but if you as a parent are not seeing traction or they're not getting an answer through, please jump in and communicate with the parent, with the teacher. So, but yeah, we definitely direct it towards the students with the hope that they're going to, build those skills of advocacy and organization. But we often have to help along the way there. But Sejal, I see that you've unmuted. Do you want to answer too?
Yeah, I was just really excited because, like I had mentioned, both my husband and I had gone, and so we were just really excited to return to the campus to see what was different, and obviously a lot of things were new. I think my strongest memory and my hopes for my oldest son when he started was he's a little bit on the shyer side, or he was at the time, and I felt it was really important for him to get involved with something right away, and so he had swam before on a team, and so we asked him to do water polo to give it a try. And he was really intimidated and nervous because he'd never done that before, but it was just a great way for him to engage with a subset of people right away. So yeah, that was my strongest memory, was just getting excited and watching those games and being able to see him try something different.
Great. Alice, would you like to answer?
Yeah, so I think that my biggest concern when my son entered Homestead was I was really concerned about what the academic workload would be like. I was worried that maybe there would be lots of homework and he would be up really late at night having to study and finish his homework. And we found that the academic workload freshman year was actually very manageable, and it wasn't as it didn't feel like it was as big a jump from middle school as we thought it would be.
Okay, thanks. If I don't see anybody else, I'll go ahead and go to the next question. So I'll go to the next one. How much, and this kind of goes with a little bit with all you were saying, but how much do you get involved with your students' academics and social life? Is Homestead meant to be a hands-off experience, or how much parental intervention, shall you say, should there be? And it looks like Kay's got unmuted, so go for it, Kay.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the kid's personality. My older one was definitely a lot more hands-off. He played water polo, got to know, upperclassmen pretty quickly, even before school started. So he found out from them, what some of the teachers were like, and what classes, what to expect in classes. He was a lot more independent, and as the years went on, he made his decisions by talking to upperclassmen or friends or teachers. Our younger one is also an athlete. He played soccer. Season's not until the winter, so he didn't have a lot of upperclassmen he knew, except for those he knew from like elementary school and middle school. He needed a little bit more guidance. It's also a personality difference. The older one is he found school to be very straightforward for him. He was a good student, worked diligently, but school was really not easy. That's not the right word. He worked hard, but straightforward is, I think, he figured it out. The younger one needed a little bit more hand-holding. I think he struggled with some of the communications with the teachers. So for him, I had to step in a couple of times, go talk to teachers, after encouraging him to interact with the teachers and when that wasn't going well. And then for the younger one, we also, in an interesting twist and turns of things, Greg actually became sort of his go-to administrator. And so over the years, my son would go and talk to Greg. And it was kind of nice that both my kids did have administrators or teachers that they felt really comfortable in going and talking to figure out, some of their challenges and issues. And so, I try to let the kids do as much as they can, but, intervene when we didn't think things were getting resolved.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else interested in Allison? Looks like you up there, and then Nikki, you can go after Allison. Oop, are you muted, Allison? Nope.
Is that better?
That's better. There we go.
Okay. I would say this is a loaded question because
it depends on your kid. It also depends on your parenting styles and what your definition of success for your child is. And I've noticed that a lot of parents have a lot of different ideas on what they want for their kids and what they think their kids should have, and the kids' ideas are also different. I think this has been a great stepping stone. I thought high school did very well providing your kids with the administration and lots of people to help them advocate for themselves and figure out what they need, whether or not they chose to use them. We didn't use a lot of resources because my kids chose not to. That doesn't mean they should have skipped that part. And I know myself, I wouldn't say I'm completely hands-off. I'm paying attention, but I don't always get the results that I want, but it's not my life. So I think this is great for parents to learn how to step back a little bit so that even if they don't do what we might consider well or be as successful as we want them to do, that they have some skills on how to deal with that once they go to college. And college is a big change for everybody, in a lot of different ways. And if they have no skills on how to figure out how to pick themselves up when things are hard, then we failed them. So that was what I thought was the most important part of high school, not the academic success necessarily. But I had all the tools I needed to keep track of them. I just didn't use them all the time.
Gotcha. Thank you. Nikki, you want to jump in there?
So like I mentioned, my kids came from a private school, right? So that was something that we were unsure of they know how to navigate themselves in a larger environment. But essentially, both my kids are on the shy side. But it turns out that they wanted to do that, all the communications and handling of all the issues themselves, and we encouraged them. So all we did at home was discuss some ideas about if they're having some challenge, you could talk to your teacher, you can go and talk to these people and give them some ideas, basically. And essentially, then they went and implemented those. And every year, both my kids found some teachers that they were more comfortable to talk to and get any guidance that they needed. So it never turned out that an issue lasted for a long time. They were able to resolve it, in spite of, like I said, the fact that they were shy to begin with. They didn't have any friends to begin with, but they found their ways. So and that to the discussion part happened earlier in the school, like early years, but after that, even that was not required. It was mostly them driving their own decisions and such.
Okay, great. Along those lines, when you did finally see a need to intervene, what was it that you recognized as a parent saying, I think it's time I stepped in to help out? What were some of the signs? What were some of the things, and kind of what was the reason? So anyone, I don't know, Nikki, if you want to keep going or if somebody else wants to jump on that one. Looks like Kay's ready to go.
So I think some of it is you get your daily notification of their grades. And, I would talk to my kids and check in to make sure that they've gone and either tried to resolve the problem or, and see how they're doing. When they come in and kind of go, well, I talked to the teacher, but, this happened and that happened. And there's, it's their side of the story. I think it's important, when you're not seeing progress, to check in with the teachers. I think it can be a little bit challenging sometimes with the teachers. I really feel for them. I think they're under a tremendous amount of pressure from the parents as well. And so, some teachers were easier to deal with, others were a little bit more challenging. And I think, putting myself in their shoes, sometimes they do get defensive because they are put under so much pressure by us parents. And so, I try to couch it not that it was a problem I needed them to solve, but we needed to work together as a team, and that as a parent, I wasn't trying to get, grades raised or whatever. It was more, what can we do to make the child successful in the classroom, and ultimately, whatever the ultimate grade is, it is what it is, but make sure that, you know, the kid is doing what they need to do to learn from the process, not just academically, but as Allison said, learn how to advocate for themselves, learn how to dig themselves out of a hole. You know, these are all the skills that they're going to need. So trying to team up with a teacher and explain to them that, you know, you are there to partner with them usually worked really well in working with the teachers. But yeah, I'm talking to the kids and seeing what they have to say and how much time is left in the semester. Those are all things that I did take into consideration in figuring out when to step in.
Say, Joel.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what Kay already said. I didn't do the daily reminders because the boys did not want me to check in with them every day, but I would do it weekly. And if I said I tried, but I wasn't always successful, that I wouldn't ask them about something unless I saw a 0 on something. And so part of it was just learning, like, well, you're telling me that you turned it in, but it's still marked as a 0. So you still need to talk to the teacher. And if it's not getting resolved after you say you've talked to them a couple times, then I would step in and try to contact the teacher and just try to understand. And sometimes it was just an honest mistake. They just forgot to mark it, or they would have a different story to tell me. And like Kay said, different teachers have different personalities, and I tried my best not to make it feel like I wanted them to understand that we're a partnership. This isn't me interrogating them. I just want to understand so that my child has a better understanding, because whatever communication they've already attempted, either they didn't come out with the same outcome that the teacher was hoping for. So thankfully I've only had to do that a few times with certain classes. For the most part, I think that the teachers have done a pretty good job. If I don't see, I do think that back to school night was helpful too, just to see the teacher and see the expectations written down in the green sheet. And that was also a good reference if we had a question about the policies for that class. So.
Okay. And we will be coming up with a unique way to do back to school night, that's for sure, doing it virtually. So we're still planning that one, but stay tuned. We'll be coming back. Allison, you look like you wanted to say something.
Just to echo what's already been said, getting off the daily reminders was, I think, the best thing that ever happened in the relationship I had with my oldest son. The daily reminders, I open it, I yell at him, he lies to me. It was pretty bad. So the weekly reminders were much better. And again, follow the 0s. I also, in my experience, not every teacher is the same, but when there has been an actual problem, the teachers have contacted me about it. And they have told me, this is what's going on. When I have contacted them for what few things have come up, I've always gotten a very positive response to tell me exactly what's going on and how we can work with it. And the teachers haven't expected me to be a go-between. They've talked to the kids on their own and said, this is what I told your mom, and stuff like that. So the teachers have been very responsive and very great about helping whatever interventions are needed. But again, the 0s. Yes, Mom, I turned it in. I did turn it in, and now it's been a month, and I'm never going to turn it in. We haven't had very many problems, so.
Excellent. Any other answers before I go to the next question, or no? All right, I'll go to the next one. Did you or your student ever encounter any episodes of bullying at Homestead? And what would you recommend doing if your student or a student experiences or even witnesses bullying? Our first stumper of the night. No.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, Alice, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Alice.
I was just going to say that I think that we've been really fortunate in that neither of my kids felt like they had experienced any kind of bullying. And I just think that I get the feeling that the overall atmosphere is that the upperclassmen were always very nice to them when they were freshmen. They felt like the upperclassmen were supportive and helpful. But that being said, I think if they had experienced any kind of bullying or witnessed anything, I think they would have felt comfortable going to a teacher or any administrator or any staff person.
Okay. Nikki, and then I think Sejal, did you want to say something after that? Okay, so Nikki, then Sejal.
I was just going to echo the same thing that I asked both my girls several times through the course of these 5-6 years, but they've repeatedly said no, they've not personally experienced anything, or for that matter, witnessed anything that can be classified as a bullying.
Okay.
So whatever culture is there, supposedly it's very good, and we didn't experience that. So fantastic experience over there.
Okay, thanks. Sejal.
Yeah, I mean, just echoing, we haven't experienced that with my children. So I think that's a good sign. The only thing that I do have conversations with my boys is bullying is not just obviously the physical stuff. And so if they see anything in their chats or messages that seems inappropriate, even if they're not participating, that they're still a participant basically by seeing it and not doing anything. So that was just the only additional thing I was going to add about that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that there weren't any experiences, but if, for those parents that are out there listening, if there is an incident or any situations where your child feels uncomfortable about something, please have them come to an adult, any adult on campus. We all know who to talk to and who to report things to. We actually are going to be trying something new this year too, where because no one's on campus, we're going to have a form that students can fill out. That's like a Google survey or Google form. They can fill out, this is what happened. These are the people that were involved. Can you look into it? It's not an anonymous one because if it's anonymous, it's really hard to follow up on, but we're going to try doing that, seeing what happens. But we do not tolerate bullying, harassment, any of that kind of stuff. I wish I could say that it's never happened on Homestead. There are incidents that have happened. And so, but I think what the numbers here are kind of showing us is that they are very low and we definitely deal with it. And, I would definitely say come forward, you will be listened to. And we have a big process to figure out what to do in those situations. So I'm again, glad to hear that nothing happened. So
yeah, I just want to say that one of my boys actually was involved in an incident, not where he was bullied, but he learned a lesson, what they thought were, pretty innocuous taking of pictures and sharing of pictures, and how that could have led to a more of a bullying type situation. I think it was a great way. It's done in a very safe, safe way for him to learn. He and his friends all learn what could have happened. And so it's great to know that, and as a parent, the school did notify me of what was going on. He was not necessarily at fault at that point in time, but it was nice to know that the school is looking out for anything that could have mistakenly have led to an incident like that, and that they are taking the opportunity to educate the kids and also to make sure that the parents are in the loop. So I appreciated that.
Great, thanks. Moving on to the next question. Everyone has concerns about the social aspect of distance learning. How did you support your student during remote learning in the spring? What would you recommend and how much should a parent be involved? Allison, go ahead.
I'm allowing my kids to manage their own social life within the boundaries of what we all have agreed are appropriate for the virus and making sure no one gets sick and all that stuff. But we took this as an opportunity to try and figure out things that you actually do like and manage your contacts appropriately. And my kids have been very good at wearing their masks and keeping their distance and knowing that because if they do those things, they will get to see their friends. To my knowledge, my kids aren't any of the ones that are climbing on school roofs and causing any trouble, but I think it's been super important. I don't think these kids realize how much they need social contact anymore. they're on their phones all day and they think that they've been talking to their friends. But I think it's important that they get to have some social contact with their friends.
Great. Nikki, you look like you want to go next.
I just wanted to call out that my involvement, the degree of involvement didn't change drastically, right? They were able to transition fairly quickly and easily into this remote learning situation. So the way I would check with them on when they go to school or how was their day was similar to what I did when they were doing it online as well, just to check in on their mental health and their socializing and such. So yeah, lately socializing on an occasional basis was okay so long as they followed the rules. But as far as remote learning, again, I checked with them, both my girls, if there was anything that they would like to convey to do something differently going forward. But they said it went well, considering that it was so abrupt and it was so sudden. Slightly bummed. They hoped that everything was normal and they could have returned back to school, but they are still not as bummed. They're finding their way of managing the situation well.
Great. Anyone else want to take a stab at that one? No? Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question then. So, did your student remain with the group of friends from middle school, or did they build new friendships, and how? Any way you can recommend to make new friends, especially remotely? Allison. And then Alice. We'll go Alice and then Alice, okay?
I would say that,
No, go ahead, Alice.
Okay.
I would say that both my kids, that they did keep some of their friends that they had from middle school, but then that they also made new friends when they got to Homestead. And most of their new friends came from the clubs and activities that they joined. And so I would encourage freshman parents to encourage their freshmen to join as many clubs and activities that they might be interested in. And I know that it's remote right now, but I know that all the clubs and activities are trying to figure out ways, creative ways to engage their members. And so I think that that'd still be a great way for new students to meet other students.
Great, thanks. Allison.
So join something. Again, what Alice just said, join something. As a freshman parent, you have a little more like leverage, maybe try and bribery is accepted in my house. Join something. Even if you hate it, you'll find somebody else that also joined it that also hate it, and you'll have something in common. I'm a band mom. All three of my kids have done band. All three of my kids love band. One of my sons, his best friends from middle school are still his best friends, even though they weren't all in band together, and they barely even saw each other in high school. My other two have kind of broken away with some of those middle school relationships, which was probably the best for them, actually. But band is very intense. Sports are very intense, a lot of time, but if you spend that much time with people, you really get to know them. And again, even if it's just one season of one thing, you'll make a friend to get you through. Also, all of the sports, and definitely band, is multi-age. And the seniors are so nice to the freshmen, and they treat them like peers, not like the little freshmen on campus. So by your first day of school, you know people all around campus saying hello to you and making you feel really good. There's nothing like a senior saying, hey, on campus that makes the freshmen feel like they really belong there. So feeling that belonging, you can't get that anywhere else. So I really feel something, anything.
Sejal, and then we'll go Kay.
Basically what Alice and Allison have already said. I had told the boys they had to join a major activity or sport for the fall, because again, I felt like that was going to be the best way to make sure that they were exposed to, a subset of people besides class. One of my sons is in marching band. The other was doing water polo, like I said. My youngest, unfortunately, he started marching band and had to drop it. But just a bit, and it doesn't have to be something like that, like FBLA or speech and debate or robotics. There are a lot of other activities. So that's what I felt was the best way for them to meet new people. All three of my boys have been a little bit different, kind of like what Allison said. My oldest son definitely had his core middle school friends, but then he definitely expanded that group throughout high school. And he just mostly, I think, met people in class. They had a lot of the same classes together, and year after year, then they just started hanging out. My middle son, he made a lot of new friends through music, through the band program, and that, and baseball too. So, and then my youngest, it's kind of a mix. It's a lot of his middle school friends, but he's still only a sophomore now. So we'll see where that goes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, both my boys were athletes, so sports definitely introduced them to a new group. The younger one still has a very tight core knit of friends, even from elementary school. My older one kind of evolved to new friends. But what I did notice was when they start driving, their social circle all of a sudden like explodes, depending on how much of a social bumblebee your child is. You know, in elementary school and middle school, I tried to make sure that I kind of knew the family, knew the parents. It was just a way for me to kind of know how quote unquote safe it was for the kids. Once they start driving, they, you know, the circle just kind of exploded, and that control was out of my realm. And I had to learn to let it go, and trust that we had taught our kids good judgment and how to figure out a good friend versus potentially a friend who might not be a really true friend. And I think, you know, it's all a process as they move on to college. You know, you're going to you're going to see less and you're going to know less. And it is kind of frightening as a parent who has always been pretty involved in the kids' lives. But, you know, they need to kind of go off on their own, and we as parents need to start to learn to let go. And this process, you know, the high school process is, I think, a journey for both the kids and the parents. What I can say is that Homestead has so many options, and every kid has an opportunity to craft their high school experience in a way that works for them. No two experience is going to be the same. And I'm really thankful that there are so many options, both academically and socially, sports, music, you know, robotics, whatever it is, that whatever is the kids' interest, there's an option for them to pursue. So I think, you know, there's lots of great ways for them to meet people.
Great. Well, I can throw my story in here because I have an unusual one in that I brought my daughter to the high school. We don't live in the boundaries, but I believed in Homestead so much that I wanted my own daughter there. And sometimes she regrets that decision, I know, but she's a very quiet, shy, introverted kid. And she tried clubs. She didn't find any that she really liked. She did meet people through classes. And she doesn't have a huge group of friends, but she has a solid group of friends. And so they've sort of been morphing over the years. So, you know, whether you're super social bumblebee, I think you said, Kay, or whether you're, you know, even an introvert, there is a place for you at Homestead. As I said, there are over 70 clubs, and you can see all those clubs listed on our website. And we have a lot of sports. I know sports. And one of the questions, though, is that we are, you know, in remote learning. And so it's going to be a little bit more difficult, absolutely. But we are looking for ways to work in clubs and athletics and in different ways. Like the band you mentioned, we've been trying to figure out different ways that the band can still perform and be together. So we're really looking at to be creative. So those opportunities will get there. And we just, like I said, try it out. High school is a great place to kind of invent yourself and try new things. So thank you for those. I'm going to move on to the next question. And this question is, you know, how competitive are the Homestead students? For students who are shy about speaking up during and outside of class, how can a parent help them feel comfortable and open to participating? Sejal.
Okay, in terms of how competitive the students are, I don't think that my kids felt like they were competing against or with other students. I mean, the school doesn't rank students. Certainly there's a lot of kids who want to do well, but I don't think my kids ever felt that they had to compete against someone else. So it's still definitely, they've been in high performing classes, so they still feel challenged, but I don't think that they felt competitive. I really do feel that the school, for us anyway, has been a good balance that way. My kids are pretty shy. And so, I mean, like I'd said, I just made it mandatory. They had to join clubs, and then if they needed help, that's just coaching that I had to do from home. Like I said, if there was a 0 on School Loop, then, you know, what are you going to talk to your teacher about? How are you going to approach it? Just stuff like that. I don't know that they are, you know, the dynamo in class in terms of speaking. That's just personality. I would say, though, I joked with my son who ended up at a very large university. He wasn't a big speaker in class. And so I just told him, if you want to go to big school like that, I told him his junior year when he was exploring colleges, you need to start learning how to at least speak up in these smaller groups, because now you're going to be in a class with hundreds of people. So I don't know that he took that to heart or realized it until after he went to college, but definitely the conversations were there.
Okay. Allison was next, and then Nikki after that.
Yeah.
No? Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Nikki, why don't you take over then?
As far as competitiveness, I agree. I didn't feel that the culture is such that I didn't feel the kids are pitched against each other. So that's fantastic. That was a huge relief to know that. And I also observed over a period of time that the kids were encouraged to be themselves, right? Whether they talk less or more, but in some form get engaged. So not everybody is forced to be a certain way. And I saw that they evolved over a period of time and became like more comfortable with themselves, and whether it be they speak more or they contribute in different ways. But that is something that I really felt was very helpful. So not everybody is tried to be molded in a certain way. Everybody is encouraged to be themselves and be comfortable with that. And I think that was very important for my girls. So I'm happy about what my observation was with my daughters.
Great. Anyone else want to take a stab at that one? Alice.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I guess in terms of participating in class, I think that to let your student know that, you know, the teacher and other students will really appreciate if you do kind of, you know, talk in class, and that's the way that, you know, the teacher and other students will kind of get to know you if, you know, if you speak out. And also if, you know, if people are, if students are hesitant to ask questions because they're afraid that they might, you know, not seem smart, they should know that, you know, all the other students are probably sitting there, maybe they have the same question in their mind, but no one is, you know, everyone is like afraid to speak out. And so if you know, if you're the person that will ask the question, everybody will be very appreciative of that.
Great. Yeah, the one thing I would just throw in there is one of the underutilized resources we have is tutorial. And so it's called Office Hours and Tutorial on Remote. And so it is a chance that if a kid is kind of shy, they can, you know, contact the teacher one-on-one and email them, or even have a, you know, a side Zoom or something with them. And so if they don't want to pretend, you know, make the, you know, tell other folks they have the wrong answer. But, you know, a lot of teachers will also encourage kids like, hey, a wrong answer is just a means to get to the right answer. So, you know, sometimes kids are a little harder on themselves for the wrong answer. And so that is something that we're definitely trying to work on. You've all talked about communicating with teachers or admin or other staff members. What would you recommend as the best way to connect with them, and what should a parent expect when they use that communication tool? Allison.
I found that email is the best way to communicate because I can be very clear on my wording and the teacher can get back to me when it's appropriate. And I always, my own personal rule is they have 48 hours to respond because they've got 120 students and they've got a lot going on. And to never expect a response outside of business hours, I don't think it's really fair for teachers to answer my emails on Sundays. So, you know, just same as working, you know, that they only have to answer my parent emails while they're at work. And I have had almost zero trouble with that.
Great. Anyone else have suggestions or recommendations? Sejal.
Just echoing the same thing. I found email to be the best way because you can articulate exactly what you need to ask. And like Allison said, I have always gotten an appropriate response within usually a day, but I, of course, wouldn't expect them to answer on the weekend. But I've never had a problem with the teacher not getting back to me.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you start the conversation over email, and if a meeting is required, then you ask for the meeting. And most teachers have been very supportive of that, administrators as well. And then so then you can have an open dialogue there as well. But again, I think the emphasis on being a partner in helping the child get over whatever the challenge is I think critical in whatever communication format you take.
Great. Sejal?
Yeah, sorry, I had one more thing I forgot to say. A lot of times my boys did not want me, well, they always did not want me to talk to the teacher if there was something, that I was confused about or they hadn't clarified with the teacher. So I just really want to say, like, the teachers have always told me, like, yes, we want to hear from parents. Like, if there's an issue, do not be afraid. And I think, Greg, you and I had that conversation my son's freshman year. Like, we were worried about raising an issue that we'd been having that we'd been trying to work out for like a couple months at that point. And there's this fear sometimes from from parents, that if they approach a teacher, that somehow it would reflect badly on the student or something. And that's just never been the case. So I want to encourage parents, if there really is an issue. I mean, I don't want parents to constantly email over nothing, but the teachers have always gladly communicated with me whenever I've asked about something.
Great. I would, again, thank you guys for hitting that point. I always tell parents and students that they should hear something within 24 to 48 hours. So yeah, if you email at 5 o'clock on a Friday night, you're probably not going to get an email till Monday. But although I got to say, a lot of our teachers are pretty quick and they do jump on it. But yeah, 24 to 48 hours, if you haven't heard, whatever communication tool you're using, definitely, follow up with an email. Or even you can then kind of even go to an administrator saying, hey, I haven't heard from this teacher, and we will try and see. Sometimes there's a mistake, like they put the wrong letter in the wrong place, but sometimes, yeah, teachers are backed up. And so we can also help in that regard. We're not, like you're saying, we're not there to get them in trouble. We're just there to help get the communication going. So thank you for that. This is on to our last question. And so hopefully part of this is about a recommendation for a new parent. So hopefully you all have at least a recommendation, but the full question is, how did you keep in touch with what is going on at school and connect with other parents? And what would you recommend for a new parent to do? So, Kay.
I recommend the parents, if your child chooses to be part of the school activity, there are always parent volunteer needs, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's clubs. Get involved. I actually was involved in the PTSA for the 6 years that my kids were there. So, that's another format. PTSA is, not directly in your kids' stuff. I definitely did the team parent type stuff for water polo and soccer. That definitely was a way to meet other parents. And school also has a bunch of opportunities to volunteer, to support some really cool initiatives. And, with things being remote, I don't know how some of those events and activities are going to happen. But you can volunteer to be a translator. As incoming parents, not everybody, and this is another great part about Homestead, there's a tremendous diversity of where the parents have come from. And a lot of us, me included, I don't sound it, but I didn't grow up in the United States. So, an American high school was, watching my kids go through high school was the first experience for an American high school for me. So there was a lot to learn from, starting from what is a prom and what do they wear? So, those are okay questions to ask. And there are plenty of other parents who are going through that problem. And then, and then everybody eventually, you get to the, what about college and American colleges and what's it all about? And it's competitive, and don't want to go there today, but there are lots of parents who have gone through this path as a first time, for an American high school with all of these things. So get out there, get talking. The PTSA has lots of interesting speakers. But build a network outside of who you already know, and there's tremendous wealth of knowledge throughout the school, both administrators and parents, and definitely encourage you to leverage that.
Thank you. Allison.
I would second that PTSA meetings have been a great way to learn. They do a great job having different speakers and events that appeal to many different areas of parenting. The Homestead Hacks last year, I thought, were an excellent way just to show up and meet other people. And when you talk to them, you understand that teenagers are going through the same thing. Maybe you've gone through something that you can help them with. Maybe they've gone through something they can help you with. It's really great to get to know other people, other parents, and to hear that your kid isn't necessarily alone in their struggles or in their frustration or in your frustration. When my first son started ninth grade, I had been volunteering for about everything he's ever done in his whole life, and he was very sick of me. So the first thing I did was to make sure I was volunteering at something where he wouldn't have to see me. And there were lots of opportunities for that. And that kept me connected. I made friends. I had a great time. I learned what was going on. And by the end of that first year, he decided maybe he didn't hate me being around. It wasn't so bad. And now I can do things that the kids aren't too. There are so many opportunities. Any job at Homestead is a great way to connect with other people and just show up. Even if your kid says, I don't want you to do that, you can say, they need me to do this. I'm going to do this. Oh, and my first 2 months of volunteering, I didn't speak to him. I used my Cupertino Middle School Yosemite rule, do not speak unless you're spoken to. So I just stayed out of his way and made sure that I got what I needed. I helped out at the same time, and I'm still doing that. So that's been super rewarding. So just show up for something.
Great. Thank you, Allison. Nikki, we'll go Nikki, then Alice.
As far as what's going on in the school, there was plenty of communications, plenty of ways to know, right? The newsletters, the website, the emails. So I was always informed of what's going on. So that was never a need for me to figure out or be worried like what's going on. And yes, volunteer, right? Challenge Day was one other place where I got to meet a lot of other teachers and parents, and they're just tremendous opportunities. And yes, I did the same thing, did all the volunteering, which was where my kids are not involved, and they get to meet other parents. But I didn't feel a lot of need for there was enough questions and enough opportunities for me to understand what's going on, and if there are any concerns, to raise them and get them addressed and everything. So there wasn't a huge need for it, but if there is a need, definitely there's a lot of avenues that could be leveraged.
Alice.
Yeah, I also felt that there was a lot of good communication from the school and the district through emails, just the weekly blast. I just would get a lot of information from that. And I was also going to say that I get a lot of information from our Homestead High School, from the Parents Forum. It seems like, yeah, I just, there's a wealth of knowledge. And so I just think that that's, I would encourage everyone to join that Parents Forum.
Great. Sejal.
Yeah, just echoing what everyone said. Volunteer if you can. There's so many different opportunities, and they don't have to be during the school day. And pretty much every activity that my children have been in have had things that are small or big or medium. So you can find something to do, and or find like another friend to do something with together. I think, again, the band program has been amazing for me to meet a ton of other parents. And my husband does, he helps with the robotics team, and we don't even have kids in robotics. He just really likes doing that kind of stuff. So the other thing I would say is you don't have to only volunteer with something that your kids are involved in. You can make a difference in a lot of kids' lives that aren't your own, if that's something you're interested in. So I just want to put a plug to try to find something that you like and help out.
Great. Well, that does round up all our questions, but I do want to just throw in here, we are looking this year to really increase the ways in which we support parents, because one thing we have found out is that, in this social distancing and closure, that parents are an extremely important part of our school. And there's all sorts of data that says, the more parents are involved in school, the more successful the students are. Not that they're all going to get A's, but that they're going to feel more connected. And so we are looking for ways to encourage parents to participate. This is a really good opportunity that the PTSA afforded us tonight to kind of tap into the expertise of you parents to help out other parents. The PTSA is also starting a parent mentorship program where veteran parents are going to be mentoring newer parents. And so that information is also on the PTSA website they have a page on our website, but we're looking to really start up some programs like getting some tutors for our students, because there are a lot of kids who are struggling in remote learning and they have the time, but they don't have maybe some of the support they'd have. Or we're looking to bring in parents for guest speakers or to teach us some things. So you'll really be hearing a lot of these opportunities coming up. We might try and do some more of these panels. Allison was talking about the Homestead Hacks, which is a parent education thing that I do with PTSA. We're going to change the name of it this year to Homestead Behind the Scenes, because people kept thinking Hacks was like a hackathon. So we changed it to that, but it is an opportunity for you to kind of see behind the curtain and what's going on at Homestead, because again, this is a time where kids do want to build some independence, and they will tell you they don't want you there. But as I hope you heard tonight, they really do want you there, and they actually need you there. So there'll be a lot of opportunities throughout the year. So again, I just want to thank the panel for taking some time out tonight to talk with us. And I wish you guys a great year, and tell all your kids hi from me, and good luck, and whether they're going remotely or going far away, and happy to hear all the great things that they're going to be doing. So I'm going to stop recording here in a second, but if the panel would just stay on after that, that'd be great. But again, thank you guys for joining us tonight.